What's going on, Bucs fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Pirate Parlay podcast here on the Sick Podcast Network. And it is game week, baby. The Buccaneers are back in action. This is not preseason. This is not a drill. This is regular season action with a divisional matchup on the line to kick off the season as the Bucs will travel north to take on the Atlanta Falcons, a team that swept them last year. Bucs looking for that payback, that revenge. We'll have a special guest in today to break down what we need to know about this Falcons team, and we'll get him on after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Welcome back to the other side. Again, welcome to the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, JC Allen. Do me a favor right now, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, copy the link, send it to a friend, tell them they got to watch this right now because this is going to be one of your most in-depth breakdowns of this Atlanta Falcons team. And to do it, we have a special guest. His name is Garrett Chapman. He's from our sister site in our NFC South on SI. He works for Falcons on SI over there covering this team, boots on the ground. Garrett, how are we doing today?
Hey, man, football's back in our lives. I can't get much better than that.
Let's do it, man. So let's just jump right into it. You've been there. You've seen it. What are your impressions so far of the Atlanta Falcons coming out of training camp?
They're young, they're fun, and I think that they're going to be very exciting. I think ultimately, at the very least, we don't know if they're going to win a lot of games. We assume that they will. We anticipate that they will. But, this is going to be a fun offense, specifically the offense. And then the defense, of course, you have the massive investment in the edge rush, specifically a group where, this pass rush has been as decrepit as any in the NFL going back the last 25 years. Actually, they're 31st in the NFL going back to the year 2000. The only reason they're not 32nd is because the Houston Texans weren't founded until a couple of years after that. If it wasn't for that, then the Atlanta Falcons would be dead last in sacks in that time. But no, I think that they've done a little bit to really address that. I think they're just going to be a fun team, and then the offense is going to be throwing the ball down the field. Everybody knows about Michael Penix and the whole drama with Kirk Cousins and everything else. But Kirk's been fantastic in camp, and Penix has been equally as fantastic, and his arm talent. You see that in person. If anybody has the opportunity to go watch this guy throw the football, it's truly a sight to behold. And you've got talent at the running back position that's undeniable in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. You got talent at the wide receiver position in Darnell Mooney and Drake London. This is the team. Again, we don't know how many games they're going to win necessarily. It's 7.5 win total. Fine, whatever. But they're going to be fun. They're going to put up points, and they're going to be an exciting team to watch.
Yeah. They've definitely got a lot of exciting players. A lot of people know because obviously on fantasy on the offensive side of the ball, Bijan Robinson is the marquee guy there. He's going number one in a lot of leagues, but you brought it up, and that's where I want to start is those young edge rushers, because I really think even with how good Bijan Robinson is, how good Michael Penix could be, you said it yourself. It's been the Achilles heel for this team along. They invested 2 first-round picks in Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. 2 guys I liked a lot coming out for their pass rush ability. Has that translated? And do you think it's going to translate early, or is it going to take a while for them to actually get going?
Success of a pass rusher in the NFL, especially a rookie, is generally not a lot. What is this? Generally, if you get 6.5 sacks, you're a front runner for rookie of the year. And ultimately 6.5 sacks isn't going to get you a lot of attention. Any veteran, really. That's a steady veteran, but it's not going to get you a lot of awards, much less a Pro Bowl or any awards like that. It's not going to get you to that level.
Right.
But that's kind of what I would expect from them this year, specifically James Pierce. He's a guy who can put his hand into the dirt. He can stand up, but he wants to get after the quarterback. He's mean. He's aggressive. He wants to hit. And he wants to fight. He was the big mood shift, I guess you could say, with this team in camp this summer. It was the fact that James Pierce is a badass, man. That's really what it comes down to. And it's an edge that this Falcons defense has lacked for a very long time, at least in my lifetime. And following and supporting and covering this team, it's been kind of a soft defense. And I think that's kind of been the theme for this unit for a very long time. And it's kind of a reputation that they've developed over time. And it's one that they've earned, I mean, in fairness. But Jalen Walker is in the inverse. I think he's going to become a true Swiss Army knife in the way that I'd say Caden Ellis kind of is for the team right now, just to a higher degree. Jalen Walker he's a son of a coach. He's a very sharp player, played at University of Georgia, was a Butkus Award winner and coming out of college. And I mean, his talent's undeniable, but he's still very raw when it comes to purely rushing the passer. And Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, that when they drafted him, specifically his role is to rush the passer. So it's still an area that he's looking to improve in. So I'd look, as far as early success is concerned, I'm not looking at statistical success for Jalen Walker necessarily. I would look at James Pierce and say, that's a guy who I think that they can, count on to get 6.5, 7 sacks. I think he can absolutely get into that. And because he's not really going to have many other responsibilities outside of just pinning his ears back and going and getting them. But ultimately, it's not going to be a strength, I would say, necessarily, but it's not going to be as glaring of a weakness. At least you would hope so, because you talk about the rookies, you invest a future first-round pick into going and getting James Pierce. It's a sunk cost at this point. It's a unit that needed some love in that regard, and you had a lot of very talented edge rushers in this class. So I understand the aggression on that side to go get your pick of the litter in terms of getting a pass rusher. But those two guys aren't going to be leaned on in a super big way early. That's why you go get a Leonard Floyd from San Francisco. It's why you're kind of hoping that Arnold Ebiketie is going to continue to take that next step coming into his year 4 season. And it's a guy who, he came on really strong late. He had 5 sacks in his last 6 games last year. Really picked up in a big way. So you're just hoping to get to that. My number is 40 sacks. If you can get to that kind of threshold right there, 40, 45, I think you're looking at a pretty good season.
Right. And, you mentioned the long time this team was labeled as soft, which kind of piqued my interest because there was one specific defender that was there for a long time that was anything but soft. And that was the big Grady Jarrett there. No longer there. How is that defensive line room shaking out? I know they brought in a couple guys from the Saints last year. How is that shaking out there? Is that an area of concern now that Jared is no longer there?
I would say it's a point of emphasis more than an area of concern. I'd say the more interesting area that I would say is more the leadership void that he's going to lead. I mean, he was the team captain on this team for the entire time, maybe like the last decade, it seems like. And you don't just lose a guy like that. It's more so his play than his play on the field. It's his leadership in the locker room that they're going to lose. But I think that they've had a couple of guys who sort of assumed that role. Caden Ellis, you mentioned he came from New Orleans a couple of years ago in 2023. He's kind of stepped into that role. David Onyemata is the other guy in the interior. But he's more of a kind of a quiet kind of guy. He's not necessarily a rah-rah type of leader in that room necessarily, I wouldn't say. But they've got young guys on that unit that I would Terry Fontenot is kind of staking a lot on those two. Brandon Dorlus and Ruka Roro. Those are two guys who they're specifically putting in a lot of pressure on to step up and be very effective. Zach Harrison's another one of those young players that they're going to lean on. They're unproven. They don't have a lot of snaps in the NFL. Basically, those two, Dorlus and Roro, they basically took redshirt years last year. So we don't know fully what they're going to do on a football field on Sundays. But based off of what we've seen in practices, they look physically gifted. You put a big investment in them, and I would expect that they take a big step forward, similar to what you're going to see with Michael Penix. It's a lot of potential. The potential is all over the field for the Falcons. And I'd say at quarterback specifically, and then along the defensive line in particular, those are the places where you have young players who have a chance to take a big step, but they're going to be counted on in a big way regardless.
You're just a segue setup master. We're here with Garrett Chapman.
I work in radio, man. That's what I do.
Breaking down the Falcons Buccaneers matchup. Some of the things to know here. You mentioned Penix. Let's jump into him. We brought him up at the top of the show. Let's get back into him. How has he looked? I think that's the biggest question. You talked about the arm strength, something we all knew. There was a question, obviously, about the injury history, and some people even thought he might slide all the way to the second round because of it. What does he look like, and what has he done that has given Falcons fans such hope that, hey, we can win the NFC South and potentially more with this kid, maybe as soon as this year?
I would say that I'm going to address the injury history first. He really hasn't had to deal with a lot of injuries just in the last 4 years or so. It's been going back to his time at Indiana. I mean, he got banged up a little bit when he played in the national title game, but he played through it and he was fine.
They're just serious injuries. That's why.
Yeah, but as far as serious stuff, but it's like knee injuries and things like that. It's been a couple of years. So I think ultimately you're not asking him to do a lot of things that would really put him at risk in that regard. He's going to be in the pocket. He's a pocket passer. I mean, he's going to get out. He's going to be more mobile, obviously, than Kirk Cousins, I guess you could say. But
you hope.
I mean, that's not really a high bar. So you're going to see him get out and get in play action. He's going to use his feet a little bit, and you saw it against the Panthers a bit, where he was able to kind of get out and roll. But that's just as the game dictates, and I think he's capable of doing those things. He's fleet of foot, right? So he can run fast, but he's not Jaden Daniels. He's not somebody who wants to get out and make that a focal part of his offense. No, what makes Falcons fans and people who watch him in practice, and I'll tell you this much, he has that type of arm talent that members of the media, people, and we have national media there at practices all the time, just like any other NFL team would. And the oohs and the ahs that come out when he throws a football and connects with people down the field, it's truly incredible. I mean, his arm talent is among the best that I have ever seen in person at playing football. I mean, it is on the level of the best in the NFL, if not like right there in that upper echelon of the very best deep ball in the NFL. Now, does that translate to wins on Sunday? We don't know yet. He went 1-2 as a starter, and I mean, there were obviously other reasons for that. But he was down the stretch and they needed wins and they didn't get them. And that's something part of the development of a young quarterback. He also had a completion percentage that left a little bit to be desired. But as far as, I mean, I don't know how deep you go into deep analytic stats and things like that. But as far as big time throw rate, he rated at 9%, which would have led the NFL. The second highest was Josh Allen, and he won an MVP last year. You know, and you look at turnover worthy throws, and I mean, he does it. He's a smart player. He's smart. He's good with the football. And ultimately, I think he's kind of given some hope back to the offense. And it's something that they had with Kirk Cousins here for the first couple of weeks of the season, first 9 weeks in particular, before he got hurt. And I mean, he banged up his shoulder and everything kind of went to the crapper after that New Orleans Saints game. Because I'd say they played the best game of the season down there in Tampa Bay. And then they followed it up with a loss against New Orleans where he got hurt and everything just kind of went south for him. And it was because of the injury and poor play and everything else that kind of stacked up. And then that's really what happened. So, but Penix is kind of like giving you a little bit of hope moving into the season.
Well, part of the issue going into the season is you don't want Penix to get injured like Kirk got injured last year. And it's become a bit difficult when you lose your starting right tackle and then your backup right tackle and you're on your third string right tackle. And, oh, by the way, your quarterback's left-handed. So the right tackle is actually the left tackle because that's his blind side. It makes everything a little bit more difficult calling the plays you want to call, even if they're running plays, because you've got a third string caliber guy instead of even a backup guy. So talk to me about this right tackle situation. McGarry's out for the season, it sounds like. Storm Norton out on indefinite, maybe 6-7 weeks. Week 5.
Probably optimistically, you could say week 5.
Optimistically, week 5. So, not looking good. What's the plan there? How concerned is the team? How concerned are you about how this whole right tackle situation, and what's the answer there? Because I know Kyle Pitts put a lining hip next to the right tackle over there. Is it Michael Jarrell starting?
Wilkinson is Elijah Wilkinson's going to be the guy. Ironically, the guy who's probably more suited to play left guard. He's just like a multi-faceted piece on the offensive line. I mean, he's okay. It's not Caleb McGarry, and you lose. I mean, more importantly than Michael Penix's blind side, I guess you could say, because it's not really they've underplayed the value of the blind side just in the modern NFL, just et cetera, whatever. Right. But it's more the fact that the rush offense. This is a group that runs to the right side more than, I think it's like 65% of the time. They run outside of the tackles 67% of the time. They average 4.5 yards per carry. You have an all-pro right guard, and then you have one of the best run-blocking right tackles in the NFL. I mean, that's where it's going to be felt more than anything, and that's the thing. And Kyle Pitts isn't going to be the guy chip blocking. That guy needs to never block anything ever, as far as I'm concerned. But no, it's going to be Charlie Warner. He's probably going to be that tight end there. And then Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, they can also jump up and do a little chip blocking and stuff like that if they need to. Just kind of hold serve there. But no, it's Elijah Wilkinson, and then they go out and they go and acquire a lot of bodies, right? I mean, they added 2 guys in free agency to the practice squad. You kept Jack Nelson, who's your 7th round pick. You kept him. I expected he was going to be on the practice squad, but that was obviously before Caleb McGarry and Storm Norton go down. I mean, it's not great. Matthew Bergeron is potentially, I mean, he's
not great, Bob.
It's not great, Bob. And it's also the fact that Matthew Bergeron plays left guard. Fantastic left guard here for the Falcons, but he played tackle in college at Syracuse. So there's a chance, I'd say it's slim at best. Dwayne Ledford, the offensive line coach, said that they're just going to find the 5 best guys and kind of go from there, which generally doesn't give me a lot of confidence, just in general, saying they're going to express confidence because it's their guys, right?
Right.
Similar to what Todd Bowles would do with Tristan Wirfs and
Charlie Heck. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. I don't think that him going down in the last training camp of the summer helps either, because that doesn't give you a lot of time to really figure anything else out. But you've got about 6 different options right now. I don't think any of the 6 are particularly great. But the biggest question is, can they get you to the bye week? Because if they can get you to the bye week and get Storm Norton back, I think you'll be shaping up to be just fine. But if the Falcons, if they start dropping games, then you start hitting the panic button, and then the season can get derailed pretty quickly, especially early in the season. But the schedule opens up in a big way after the bye week. Well, specifically at the game after the bye week. You have the Bills week 6, but outside of that, it kind of settles down a little bit and the schedule gets a little simpler. But you just got to get there. The first 6 weeks of the season of a nightmare written all over them.
Yeah. And it's still never a good prospect to be just hoping to be good enough so your second string right tackle can come back and bail out your third. But that's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big spot where the Bucs try to exploit right there with Hassan Reddick, especially running some games and some different stunts to get him on his heels, and probably bringing some extra players as well. But we'll get into that later down the line. Give me some names to know, guys. So maybe, we know the Drake Londons, we know the AJ Terrells, we know obviously the guys who we were just talking about with the Penix and the rookies, and give us some names to know that we might not know that are going to play a big role, not only on Sunday potentially, but throughout the season.
I think I'll give you one for the offense, and I'll give you one for the defense. Defensively, I feel like one guy who doesn't get a lot of love for no good reason is Caden Ellis. And I think Caden Ellis is one of the best linebackers in the NFC South. I think he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL, but he just does not get that kind of love. I mean, he's somebody who can do everything. We talked about Jalen Walker being a Swiss Army knife. That's kind of what Caden Ellis is for the Falcons. He's got 9 sacks in his last 2 seasons. He led him in tackles last year, 151 tackles, I believe. He can be solid in pass protection, or not pass protection, in pass defense, I guess you could say. He'll get after the passer, and he cleans up at the second level. And I think he finally has a running mate in Divine Diablo, who they go and get from the Raiders. Not a very popular name necessarily, but he's a physically gifted player who's going to take a little bit of pressure off of Caden. And I think ultimately, that is the guy for your defense at the second level. He's going to be cleaning up a lot of plays. That's just what he's going to be there for, and he can do everything. He's going to be a leader on this defense. He, alongside of obviously Jesse Bates, who, I mean, everybody should be aware of Jesse Bates. He's one of the best players in not even just safeties in the NFL. But then on offense, I'm going to go to the wide receiver too, Darnell Mooney. He was just a man. If he played week 18, he would have hit 1,000 yards. I mean, very similar to what your guy down there in Tampa, but he was trying to get that 1,000-yard right there at that last game of the season. But he didn't play, and he was a healthy scratch. But he and Michael Penix, I think, could potentially have a really awesome relationship. just because of the kind of player that Darnell is, and he's, if any of your people out here watching this right now are fantasy football people, I mean, he's somebody you can get a little bit deeper in a draft, and you don't see him a lot of the highlight reels because he wasn't in camp all summer. He goes down with an injury the first day of camp. So you talk about hype being very low. Darnell Mooney is probably that guy, but he's a downfield threat. He's somebody that Michael Penix is going to connect with early and often, and he's somebody who I think if he can get the ball to Darnell consistently, I think he's going to have a fantastic season. And I think if he could go a long way in really adding another element, I guess you could say, to this Falcons offense.
Nice. Yeah. Darnell Mooney, he burned me with the Bears. I don't know. I haven't trusted him since, but we'll see. He's
got a quarterback who can hit him over the middle of the field, though. That's the difference.
That's true. With Penix's arm, I might be able to take another flyer on him. I got my draft tonight coming up here in a couple of hours. Let's talk about the strengths of this team. If you had to say XYZ or one area in particular is a strength of this Falcons team, what is that strength?
It's still running the football. I mean, you got Bijan Robinson in this backfield, and he's so damn good that people don't even talk about him anymore. He's kind of gotten to that level. I mean, even here in Atlanta, I mean, it was so easy to talk about everything else about how, I mean, you have a right tackle issue. That's all people want to talk about. You have the new edge rushers. That's what people want to talk about. And rightfully so, because those are question marks and those are things that people are curious about. They are so consistently good at running the football here that it is just almost an afterthought. And you have next to him Tyler Algier, who's, I mean, you talk about David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs up in Detroit. These two are right there on that same level. And like Bijan Robinson's that good. He can do everything with a football. And I mean, he can absolutely give you a type of season that Saquon Barkley had last year. Now, I mean, he's definitely the guy who could do those highlight reel type of plays where he can jump backwards over somebody and do something crazy. But the next big thing for him to do is unlock that explosivity to his game. He's somebody who is fourth in the NFL in terms of carries over 10 yards, but then you get up to that level of 25 plus, he drops like 17th or something, so his career long, I want to say is like 32, 37 yards or something like that, which is crazy to think. He's just so good in that 10 to 20 yard mark. And if you want to talk about taking up your game to the next level, that's what he's got to do. But if it's not Bijan, then it's Tyler Algier, and this rushing attack is going to be pretty damn good. And I'd expect it to be good again this year, regardless of who's playing right tackle.
Nice. And then the weakness, like what's this glaring weakness? Like if other teams are gonna to exploit this Falcons team, whether that's offense or defense, where are they doing it?
I think the weakness generally for this team is just uncertainty. I'll say that, and then I'll give you a more kind of a legitimate answer, I guess you could say. But you're counting on a lot of youth. You're giving a lot of youth, right? Like you got defensive linemen who are really young. You've got a corner that a nickel corner who's a rookie. You have a safety who's a rookie. You have a quarterback who started 3 games. And then you're pretty shallow just across the board, just in terms of overall talent on the roster. Your starters are great, but then you get down another level and it's not all that great. But I'd say rush defense, just because you talk about the attack style that Jeff Ulbrich, the new defensive coordinator came down from the New York Jets. One of the things that you see happen is guys get pushed up the field a little bit, and that opens up running lanes. And that's going to be something I expect teams like Bucky Irving and the Buccaneers to attempt to really exploit. But if you can earn the right to get to third down and rush the passer, I expect them to be improved in that way.
All right, we brought him up. We talked about a little bit earlier. Darnell Mooney, who was one of your players to know, and then one of the young pass rushers we were talking about there, Jalen Walker. Both of them a little bit banged up. You mentioned Mooney getting injured on the first day of training camp. So what's the prognosis for this Sunday? Who do you feel like is going to have a chance to go and play in this game, and who might be sidelined?
I mean, we've talked a lot about the right tackle position. That one's kind of a nightmare scenario, but I mean, it's kind of a moot point at this point. I expect Darnell Mooney to play. That's been kind of like that's been kind of the mentality from this coaching staff. It's been very consistent that he's pretty much on track to start and play. Now, is he going to be 100%? No, probably not. But I think that he is going to at least suit up. I'd be a little surprised if he doesn't. Now, I mean, we're recording this a little earlier, so I'm not 100% sure things can change throughout the week, but he's been doing jog throughs and things like that. But then as far as Jalen Walker is concerned, he's been dealing with some soft tissue issues. Had a groin or he had a hamstring that then turned into a groin but he's on track, just like Darnell Mooney is. So I'd expect outside of right tackle them to be pretty much completely healthy across the board.
All right, I got 2 more things, and then we'll get your score prediction and get you out of here. What's your season outlook on the Falcons? And then what's as an outsider? You asked me this on yours on your podcast. As an outsider, what's your view of the Buccaneers this season? And then we'll get us out of here with a score prediction.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm excited about the team, but I think the issue at right tackle has sobered me up in particular, because it kind of reminded me just how shallow this team is. Just your top level talent is really good. Like when you talk about Michael Penix at his best, you talk about Drake London, Jesse Bates, AJ Terrell, things like that. But I mean, this the same can be said for a lot of teams in the NFL, but you go one layer below that, and then that's where you start to get really worried, and it's a lot of inconsistency. It's a lot of youth. It's a lot of people who haven't necessarily reached that level where you can feel comfortable as a prognostication, and when you're trying to look ahead at a season. And but I'm still pretty bullish on this team. I still think that they can get up to that level, and they showed that they are capable of being a quality team in this league, and they were that team. I mean, first 9 weeks of the season, they were 6-3, and they were running away with this division. Like they were so far and away the best team in this division for the first half of the season. I mean, you sweep the Buccaneers, you beat the Carolina Panthers, and you beat the New Orleans Saints, and then everything just goes off the rails because Kirk Cousins get hurt and he can't complete the ball to his own team, and he gets 1 touchdown to 9 interceptions over the course of 6 weeks.
Right.
And everything goes to crap. And then Michael Penix comes back, and it's just this sort of resurgence, and you're scoring 34 something points per game and everything. And the offense looks incredible. And he opens up a gear for this offense that I don't think that they had, even with Kirk Cousins at his best. But so as far as long-term, 9 wins, I think is probably the conservative number that I would say. I think if things go really poorly, which they absolutely could, they could drop off and win 6-7 games. And I think if everything goes perfectly, I'd say at the best, probably 10 wins.
Right.
But that might be enough to get you to the playoffs, but who knows?
And then your view on the Bucs real quick. What do you feel? Do you feel like they're undeservingly being crowned already, or do you think it's deserved?
I think they're being undeservedly crowned right now. I think that, but at the same time, it's like you've won 4 straight. So it's like, well, how can you say anything to the contrary? But no, I think that a lot of things went really, really right for the Bucs last year. Outside, I mean, you have injury concerns and things that, but you have a lot of stars who are aging. You have a lot of guys who had career years last year. Can Baker Mayfield come in and do exactly what he did last year? I don't necessarily buy it. Not from the outside. You have your 3rd play caller in 3 years. Again, he's a really good play caller. We assume he's a good offensive mind, but striking gold 3 years in a row is something that it doesn't always happen, and the NFL's really hard. And so I think that the Bucs are going to be really good. They're good. I mean, the division runs through Tampa until proven otherwise. But I think the Falcons can run with them if things go well. So I think ultimately it comes down to what Michael Penix can do. Because last year, the Bucs didn't win the division. This is my opinion. This Falcons just kind of pissed it away.
Yeah, I could be on that.
That's just kind of the way it kind of rolled. But and then again, that's my opinion on the matter. But I mean, ultimately, I think the Falcons can get up there and compete with the Bucs. They showed it last year, and I think they'll have a good shot on Sunday to do it again.
That brings us to Sunday. What do you got? What do you think?
Go with the Falcons, man. Come on.
I know it's early.
Falcons.
What are you thinking? You think this is going to be a dogfight, a shootout? Week 1, we know it's going to be a little bit sloppy. 2 division rivals going up against each other.
Did the Bucs play the preseason?
Not really. No.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, Falcons didn't either. I expect this to be kind of clunky at times. I mean, it's a race to 28. Whoever hits the 28 first, I would assume, is going to win. Right. I mean, these are going to be 2 good offenses, and I think the Falcons want to show off some of the pieces that they have. And I mean, Michael Penix I think he's going to put the world on notice this season. I am that bullish on this guy and his talent. His upside is truly incredible. But I mean, I say I'd say the Falcons win, say 28-24 or something like that. But then I don't think that the Falcons sweep them again. For my prognostication, whenever I predict a season, I always have a split. So I'd say Falcons win in Atlanta and Tampa wins in Tampa. Maybe I think that's my best bet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's close, and then the Bucs pull away. Of course, my score prediction, I got 27, so close to that 28, 27-17 Bucs. We'll break down more of that on Saturday on one of our Cannon Fire clips. I'll bring you guys my keys to the game, all that stuff, because this is going out today. Will be Friday before the game. So, Garrett, I want to. Thank you so much for popping in here. Go ahead and promote yourself. Tell everybody what you're up to, where they can find you, and what's going on up there on SI with the Falcons.
Sure. Yeah. No. So give me a follow at GChapATL on Twitter. Falcons on SI. We have a lot of coverage coming out, so make sure to check us out there. And now I do lots of stuff for Georgia Tech as well. So if you're any college football fans out there, I do a lot of stuff with that as well. So, but no, JC, it was a pleasure. I love talking football, and I'm just glad it's back in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for coming in.
Absolutely.
All right. That's going to do it for us here at the Pirate Parlay Podcast. Appreciate everyone for sticking around. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We just got an in-depth look at this Atlanta Falcons team that's coming in here. Stay tuned for my Cannon Fire clip. We're going to come out with my keys to the game and my final score prediction. As I'm pretty sure I'll stick with what I dropped right now, but things may change between now and Saturday. So we'll check in there. Again, everyone who's listening on any sort of podcast app, I appreciate you. Come check us out on YouTube sometime. And that's going to do it for us on another edition of the Pirate Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. We're out of here. Peace out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.